внимание, они должны были бы понять, что уже проиграли с самого начала нашей специальной военной операции, потому что ее начало означает и начало кардинального слома миропорядка по-американски. Это начало перехода от либерально-глобалистского американского эгоцентризма к действительно многополярному миру. Миру, основанному не на придуманных кем-то для себя эгоистических правилах, за которыми нет ничего, кроме как стремления к гегемонии, не на лицемерных двойных стандартах, а на международном праве, на подлинном суверенитете народов и цивилизаций, на их воле жить своей исторической судьбой, своими ценностями и традициями, и выстраивать сотрудничество на основе демократии, справедливости и равноправия. И надо понимать, что этот процесс остановить уже невозможно. На что хотел бы обратить внимание?
All right, so Yawam, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Also want to give double honors to Elder Tahar and the rest of the elders that are fervently pushing his word, whose labors I've entered into. And honors to all you fellow laborers that are also kicking this word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all you sincere believers in the Wadi Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, Kayaha Rakakodash. That is the Holy Spirit moving me to do this lesson, another volume of Sunrise Spiritual Speaking. This being the 661st volume, and as we can see, Putin is speaking openly about the deterioration, the destruction of America, the destruction of Babylon the Great. And all these nations are calling out America because America is being dethroned. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 47, verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne. That's right. And that's what he's saying. Hey, that the throne is being taken away from America, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. That's right. So this is a beautiful time. And we can see it manifest with this recession. Hey, the West in general is going through a sore recession. Why? Because of all of America's policies. Now it's shameful spewing on Babylon the Great. This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Or when you look it up in the King James Version, 1611 in the Ledger, it says more shame than glory. And that's absolutely true, especially as it pertains to the Biden crime family. You got the president of the United States. He's having a speech, and then you got a heckler, not even really a heckler, just somebody that's rebuking Joe Biden about his son who's off the hook. I mean, bragging about how much crack he got, which, by the way, the main person to draft those laws, those mandatory minimum sentencing laws, was Joe Biden. And he was the main one pushing it while he was a senator of Delaware. So that if you have 5 grams of crack, it's a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years. And you got Israelites that's doing time unto this day because of policies that Jim Crow Joe primarily implemented. And now look, the Heavenly Father made his son a straight up crackhead, a straight up knot. So thou art filled with shame for glory. Right. So that's nothing that you glory in. That's a shameful thing. That's America's first son. Drink thou also and let thy foreskin be uncovered. Right. And Esau is totally exposed. In particular, the American Edomite. The cup of Ahadawan Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee. And shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. That's right. Shameful spewing is on America's glory. And that's why America is being called out. That's why we're in the time of America being spoiled, America being finessed. And that's what the judgment of the Heavenly Father. Isaiah 33, verse 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. That's right. And that's Esau/Edom. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. Right. And that's the spirit that these other nations are in concerning Esau/Edom. They're all about getting an advantage over his ass. And it's so bad that Putin is decrying that, hey, we're now in the midst of a new world order, not the liberal world order that's based on hypocritical double standards, but on the basis of international law and the genuine sovereignty of peoples and nations. So this is what he thinks the world's going to transition to, not knowing that his ass himself is going to go into captivity. But this just goes to show that we're in the end of America. We're in the end of Babylon the Great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine earlier this year and the sanctions that followed have triggered a downfall for the European currency. Today, the euro has dropped to a new low. The euro and the dollar have reached parity for the first time in 20 years, which means 1 euro equals $1. In recent weeks, European market assumptions have been signaling that the economy has been heading towards a deep recession. The euro has experienced a dramatic loss of value since February, when it was worth over $1.13. The fall accelerated in recent weeks over fears that Russia, which is EU's main energy provider, was going to completely cut off gas flows in retaliation to the Western sanctions. So far, 12 EU countries have seen total or partial reduction in Russian gas. Supplies from the Nord Stream 1 pipeline have been halted. The Kremlin says it's under maintenance, but Europe fears an extended suspension. Let's take a look at some of the consequences of euro's fall to dollar parity. First, it will have an effect on inflation and purchasing power. Nearly half of all goods imported in the Eurozone are invoiced in dollars, including oil and gas, which now means more euros are needed to pay for an equivalent amount of goods in dollars. Euro-dollar parity will also affect businesses, especially the ones reliant on foreign trade and energy. Companies that export outside the euro area will benefit because their prices become more competitive when converted to dollars. This includes export-oriented manufacturing sectors like aerospace, automobiles, luxury goods, and chemical industries. Import-oriented businesses, however, are at a disadvantage. Euro's fall will also impact growth. The fall in the currency makes prices outside the single currency area more competitive, providing a boost to export of European goods abroad. But this can be mitigated by the rising prices of commodities in the wake of the war. And by fueling inflation, the euro's fall could push the European Central Bank to raise interest rates more rapidly. It is preparing to tighten borrowing costs for the first time in 11 years this month. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has turned the tables around. It continues to take a heavy toll on the European economy. For now, Brussels has not made any clear-cut projections about an imminent recession. It is still hopeful that the Eurozone can be resilient to weather disruptions from the war and the energy crisis that follows. However, the euro for now is under the spotlight. Whether it ends up falling below the American dollar remains to be seen.
And it did. It actually fell below earlier. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. And this is going to lead to Revelation, the 17th chapter. Because they're totally divided. Let me grab this in the book of Mark. And the cracks are already there. It's the book of Mark, like Ukraine. Even though they're not officially a part of the EU or NATO, they're an unofficial member. And they're mad at Canada for them repairing a turbine and sending it to Germany to get back to Russia. Why? Because these people need energy. All right, Germany more so than any other of those European countries, they are dependent. All of their industries are going to fail, as I've been saying for months through the Spirit, and as now different analysts are agreeing with, even the labor leaders out there, the economic minister, they're saying that they're too dependent upon Russia. So without Russian gas, whole industries are going to fail. So this is leading to more division. We see what's going on with Turkey. Even though they're a part of NATO, they're still doing deals with Iran and Russia. So this is Mark 3, verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. That's right. And that's why all of these leaders are just thrown in the towel. We saw it with Bojo. All right, the leader of Estonia just quit. All right, they're calling for the head of the Italian prime minister. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. That's right. So the house of Edom is clearly divided against itself. And Esau's wicked economic measures are being exposed. Proverbs 16, verse 11, a just weight and balance are ha'adawan Yahweh's. All the weights of the bag are his work. That's right. So Esau does not deal with that. Esau doesn't deal with just scales and balances. He's creating money out of thin air. And now to attempt to combat this rampant inflation, he's giving more money. So a just weight and balance are Ha'adawan Yahweh's. All the weights of the bag are his word. But see, Esau, he deals with a false balance. Proverbs 11 verse 1, a false balance is abomination to Ha'adawan Yahweh, but a just weight is his delight. Right, so Esau deals with false balances. His whole economic system is witchcraft. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 23. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, right? These international bankers. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. That's right, because that's sorcery. For you to create money out of thin air, nothing backing it, and that being viewed as legal currency, legal tender, that's nothing but sorcery. That's nothing but witchcraft. It's the book of Nahum 3, verse 16. Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. That's right. And we see that, especially in the last 2-3 years, 2.5 years, the number of billionaires has multiplied. Over $1 trillion has been added into the wealth of these billionaires. And I've went into this before. The cankerworm spoileth and flieth away. Now the cankerworm, when you look it up, is locust, but it's really talking about people. So the cankerworm spoileth and flieth away, right? Because now we're in the time of your ass being spoiled. And that's why this economy is shutting down. Because everything that Esau is doing is backfiring. The Wadi Habashimau shot for that. Leviticus 19, verse 35. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, in weight, or in measure. That's right. So you're not supposed to falsify the scales. And that's what Esau does. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, a just hin shall you have. I am Ha'adawan Yahweh, your power, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. That's right. So because this devil isn't dealing with just balances, he's been ripping everybody off, or he's been putting everybody in debt. Now these people are taking up a parable against him. So now let me go back to the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. And I'm going to go to verse 4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. That's right. Who are the just? The remnant, the elect. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. What's the wine? Let's go to the book of Revelation. Chapter 14, verse 8. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. That's right, because all these nations have been in bed with America and adapting American ideals, American banking system, American democracy, so on and so forth. So going back to Habakkuk 2, verse 5, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. That's why this devil is always meddling in these different countries. And there's 850 plus military bases all around the globe, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. That's right, this devil has an insatiable quest, thirst for power and resources, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people, right? And that's the spirit that Esau had during the time of him classifying himself as a Greek or Assyrian. Let's go and grab that in 1 Maccabees, the 1st chapter. Chapter 1, verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. You see that? And that's what everybody's doing all over again. That's why going back to Revelation, the 14th chapter, I'm going to read it again. It says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, which is why we're classified as citizens. So I'm a resident of California, a resident of Nevada, but ultimately I'm a citizen of America, because this is all one great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. That's right. Let me grab this in Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, verse 7. Babylon had been in golden cup in Ha'adawan Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. And we see that. You got people dressing like Americans, listening to American music. The government's adapting American way of governance. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. That's right. Now these nations, they're all messed up. And a madman is liable to do anything. And that anything that they're going to do is shoot missiles on this place. All right, because they're beginning to sober up. And like over there in Lebanon, I was watching a little documentary. Now, going back 30, 35 years ago, they started adapting more American ideals, and they went away from farming, community building, and the concentration was more on banking. And that's because of what? American influence. But now they're waking up to it and they're turning against America because their economy has been cratered. All right, the Lebanese lira, I believe that's the name of their currency. Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me. It's the Lebanese pound. Look, the, the black market value of the Lebanese pound has fallen to an all-time low of 35,600 against the US dollar, a drop from 26,800 in the space of just 2 weeks. A sign that Lebanon's economic crisis is set to continue to cripple the country. You see that? So you don't get damn near nothing for it. How much is $100 in Lebanon? 15,120 pounds. Look at this. And that's all because they've adapted American governance, American economic system. All right, so Babylon had been in golden cup in Adonai-Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunk enough her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. Let me look at this word mad. Right. Halal. To act madly, to act like a madman. And a madman will strap a bomb to himself, will go and shoot up a school. He'll do anything, man. And that's what America has produced. A bunch of goddamn madmen in these countries. That's why everybody's taking up a parable, going back to Habakkuk 2 and 5. See, this is all America's doing. See, now America is beginning to receive blowback. Look this term up. An unforeseen or unwanted effect, result, or set of repercussions. That's right. So we're in the time of America receiving the blowback for all of its wickedness. Yea, also because he transgressed by wine, for America getting everybody drunk off America. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as death. It cannot be satisfied, right? This devil can't be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people, right? Because that's the spirit of Esau. He wants everybody to come up under his ass. Yep, shameful spewing, absolutely. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Now, what's the clay symbolize? It symbolizes debt, because the word there is ibatya, which means heavy pledges or debts. Now I'm going to look up American debt. Now, that's what America is known for, having all types of debt. So let's go to America's debt clock. The U.S. national debt, over 30 trillion. Debt per person, almost 100,000. You see that? And that's just government debt, not keeping in mind corporate debt and these people's individual debt, because this is how much government debt, if you divided it up per citizen. But then each citizen has their own corporate debt, credit cards, student loans, so on and so forth. And so this place is done. American consumers added to record debt level in May. So it's only going up. American consumers added to their record levels of debt in May as they continue to struggle to make ends meet in this inflationary environment. That's right, because these people don't have actual liquid, meaning cash, don't have gold, don't have silver. Really, when they speak about liquid, they're speaking about dollars. So what do? You lean on the debt. You lean on the credit cards. You go to payday loans. Americans increased their debt by $22.35 billion in May, according to the latest data from the Federal Reserve. That represents a 5.9% annual increase. Americans now owe a record $4.588 trillion in consumer debt, right? So there you go, on top of that government debt. And I could read on. In America, cancer patients endure debt on top of disease. How are Americans paying for college? Debt. U.S. government debt under pressure after strong employment. So there you go. 100 million people in America are saddled with medical debt. Debt, debt, debt. Can America keep financing its rising debt load? Something's got to get. Something's got to give. Red flag. Consumers are using buy now, pay later to cover everyday expenses. That's right, because they don't have any liquid. So they're only adding to the debt. Shall not all these take up a parable against them and a taunting proverb against them? Well, right here. I'm gonna go ahead and play it one more time.
На что хотел бы обратить внимание? Они должны были бы понять, что уже проиграли с самого начала нашей специальной военной операции, потому что ее начало означает и начало кардинального слома миропорядка по-американски. Это начало перехода от либерально-глобалистского американского эгоцентризма к действительно многополярному миру. Миру, основанному не на придуманных кем-то для себя эгоистических правилах, за которыми нет ничего, кроме как стремления к гегемонии, не на лицемерных двойных стандартах, а на международном праве, на подлинном суверенитете народов и цивилизаций, на их воле жить своей исторической судьбой, своими ценностями и традициями, и выстраивать сотрудничество на основе демократии, справедливости и равноправия. И надо понимать, что этот процесс остановить уже невозможно.
Right? So he said, hey, man, this is already in motion. So this is the parable. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, which that's the debt, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them, right? Because now everybody wants to spoil America. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein, right? And this is the time that we're clearly in. We're in a time of all these nations getting at America, getting at Babylon the Great. You're experiencing the blowback. All right, so let me go and run through these stories real quick. This is big over at Uber. That's a big catastrophe, especially with Macron. He was doing some backdoor deals with Uber to collapse the transportation, the private transportation industry, meaning taxis, cabs. So everybody is getting at his ass now. Now they're calling for his ass to resign. Now, Putin is to visit Iran next week. His visit to coincide with Biden's visit to Saudi Arabia. Now, we know that the Valley of Jehoshaphat, that's in the Saudi Gulf region. So this is a very pivotal moment in biblical history. All right, that's going to lead to what? Even more tension, because they're attempting to create an Arab NATO to go against Iran. And the main nation that they want to tag into that is Saudi Arabia. But guess what? Saudi Arabia is considering going with BRICS. So there's a lot going on. Peep this. Shooting exercises started in the Kaliningrad region. About 500 Marines and up to 30 units of military equipment take part. Actions are practiced in defense, in the offenses, and in engineering reconnaissance of the area, right? Because Kaliningrad is an exclave of Russia. It's situated between Lithuania and let me go ahead and look it up. It's another country. I'll go ahead and pull it up. Lithuania and Poland, which those are NATO and EU countries. And so they're essentially doing a blockade right now. And they keep saying, Russia keeps saying, if you keep trying this, we're going to go ahead and do measures that you're not prepared for. All right, so U.S. Treasury research concludes that a well-designed central bank digital currency may decrease rather than increase financial fragility. You see that? So this just came out. So they're getting ready to push this CBDC as we see the collapse of the dollar. There are rumors that in the coming days, Russia may officially change the status of Ukraine from a special military operation to a declaration of war. That would be devastating for Ukraine if it happens. Let's hope that this is not the case, right? And I was watching Canadian Prepper, and he was speaking about this. That's why they had an emergency meeting at the Domo, because that's pretty much the equivalent of the Senate House over there in Russia. So there's a lot going on. There's another failed coup attempt in Belarus. The euro won't stop failing until ECB raises interest rates. The ECB won't raise interest rates because the euro system will collapse. Ergo, Europe won't stop falling. It's failing. Yeah, so look, this is what I was talking about. According to this, they were asking if it was actually going to drop below the dollar. Well, it did already. You see that? So the dollar, so the dollar is actually stronger than the euro. And this is the lowest the euro's been in 20 years. The head of the International Energy Agency is warning that the global energy crisis may get worse. Yeah, absolutely, it's going to get worse. Russia and China are developing new reserve currency with other BRICS countries to challenge the dollar dominance. Because the dollar is strong right now, but it's not going to be strong for too much longer. So we're in those times. The NASDAQ is in a free fall. Yep, and that's it from today. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this in Revelation, the 17th chapter, because this is going to all lead to this prophecy. We see all the uprisings of the people, and that's going to cause the governments to have either capitulate to the demands of the people, or they're going to have to resign. And then there's going to be people that come into power that are more and more anti-NATO and anti-America. And we see that. And what are they going to do? Revelation 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Who's the whore? America. And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. That's right, because this is all working to this big prophecy of the destruction of America by way of nuclear missiles, not just from America's traditional enemies, but even those that are considered their allies today, which is the European Union. Right, the horns upon the beast being NATO, the horns being the EU, the European Union. So I'm going to go ahead and end here through the Spirit. I pray that this lesson was edifying, exhorting, and comforting. Actually, one more thing. I'm going to put this in the description box. This is my my new page. They hit me with another strike on Nonstop on the Block 144. So, yep, this is my new page, and I'll be going live from there. If I get to, I think it's 25 subscribers, so Adon Ratazai, everybody will go ahead and tune in there or subscribe there, and then I'll start going live from there starting tomorrow. Adon Ratazai. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, the Wadi Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. And until next time, Shalom.